The Senior Wellness and Protection Act just officially became legislation. Here's what this really signifies for your situation. Put down whatever you're engaged with right now, because something just passed within the U.S. Congress that has the potential to fundamentally reshape your golden years, your medical attention, and your monetary well-being beginning within the coming months. Countless senior Americans remain uninformed about what's genuinely included in it. We're discussing increased safeguards against long-term care facility mistreatment, fresh restrictions on medicine expenses for older individuals, and modified regulations that could deliver genuine money back into your retirement benefits payment. Yet here's what primary news outlets aren't highlighting. Not every modification happens instantaneously. Certain perks only become available if you're aware of how to obtain them. And there are significant deadlines you might overlook if you don't act promptly. We're examining every substantial modification in straightforward language. No complicated terminology, no partisan bias. Therefore, you and your relatives understand precisely what advantages you're currently able to take advantage of and which actions to implement immediately to safeguard what lies ahead. Let's start right away, the origins of this bill. Throughout many decades, elderly people throughout America have been confronting a framework that failed to account for their requirements. Medicine expenses that appeared illogical, senior residential facilities working with almost no examination, retirement income modifications that barely maintained pace with the genuine price increases, elderly person monetary wrongdoing that stripped hardworking older adults of their collected wealth. These weren't minor annoyances. These represented genuine difficulties unfolding in countless residences nationwide. And the majority of it was taking place with inadequate awareness from elected representatives. The Senior Wellness and Protection Act represents among the broadest legislative projects aimed at older people in many years. It influences nearly all aspects of existence that matter greatly to individuals over 60. Medical treatment, residential spaces, monetary matters, and personal welfare. And the thing we have to examine it with such completeness is since news coverage moves rapidly, and what typically receives coverage are the leading points. Yet the specifics, the genuine practical lifestyle facts, where the genuine advantage comes for you. Let's discuss medicine expense modifications. One of the greatest and widely discussed sections of this bill touches on medicine expenses. For those on government senior medical coverage, this is anything you've been anticipating to hear. Throughout the years, government senior medical coverage was constitutionally prevented from haggling medicine expenses with drug makers. Take a second to think about that. The nation's greatest purchaser of medications was forbidden from applying that magnitude and leverage to haggle down expenses. Commercial medical programs could haggle. The Division of Armed Forces Medical Services could haggle, yet government senior medical coverage, which protects beyond 65 million citizens, was not able to. What happened was that older adults were paying amongst the greatest medicine expenses on the planet for the identical medications that inhabitants in Canada, Switzerland, and Australia were getting at considerably cheaper costs. The Senior Wellness and Protection Act broadens and expedites the medicine expense alteration approach. Following the updated guidelines, government senior medical coverage will have the ability to haggle expenses on a far more comprehensive collection of medications, and those haggled expenses will commence quicker compared to earlier timescales permitted. In practical application, what this indicates is that when you're currently investing $200, $300, possibly even $500 monthly on medications for circumstances like glucose issues, center complications, or bone inflammation, there exists a genuine probability that those expenses reduce, not at some distant moment, on a phased schedule that initiates straight away. The bill, furthermore, restricts out-of-pocket medicine expenses for government senior medical coverage customers, indicating there's a restriction on what you'll need to pay throughout a specific 12-month period. Regardless of the volume of medications you take or their expense, for countless older people who've needed to pick between their medications and their meal budget, this isn't something small. This represents transformation. Let's examine government retirement benefit modifications. Currently, let's concentrate on government retirement benefits, since this is something that creates frustration, and with excellent reasoning. Government retirement benefits have remained the monetary core of post-work years throughout America from the 1930s. It was designed as a pledge. You're employed, you contribute funding, and once your employed years finish, the plan sustains you. However, throughout background, that pledge started to seem somewhat fragile. Yearly monetary modifications, referred to as price escalation amendments, are intended to guard your payments from price increases. Every year, the Retirement Benefit Organization examines price increase information and modifies your monthly quantity appropriately. However, there's the difficulty, and this is something that older people have been expressing for considerable years. The price increase computation utilized to determine those modifications does not depict the manner in which older people really apply their money. The conventional computation monitors the spending practices of metropolitan salaried workers and workplace workers. It accounts for items like vehicle fuel, computing devices, and occupation-connected spending. Yet older people distribute their finances differently. They invest substantially greater on healthcare, on medications, on at-home attention. Individuals' groups go up in worth more quickly than virtually everything else in the marketplace. The Senior Wellness and Protection Act tackles this immediately. It advocates for the implementation of a cost increase metric specifically created to monitor older person spending practices. What this suggests is that your yearly government retirement benefit modification would truly match what your lifestyle expenses, not what a younger employed worker's life expenses. Throughout many years, this might suggest many dollars more every single year in the funds you keep. It doesn't appear like a major alteration, yet whenever you're surviving on a set quantity, a much more precise price modification annually compounds into something quite tangible and quite meaningful. There's similarly language inside the bill that tackles the long-established matter of government retirement benefits' extended financial sustainability. Without diving excessively into the complicated specifics, the apprehension has always been the fact that the government retirement benefit financial reserves would experience shortages approximately around 2030 something, which would have triggered involuntary payment reductions. Not anyone supported that. The bill adds sections that reinforce the monetary base, largely via modifying the payroll contribution ceiling, indicating that greater compensation workers send additional funds into the arrangement, which aids maintain it for all. This secures your payments not just presently, yet for years to follow. Plus, when you possess offspring or great-grandchildren who will eventually count on government retirement benefits themselves, this situation matters for them as well. Senior housing facility improvements. Let's move towards senior housing facility modifications, since this represents a portion of the bill that doesn't get sufficient focus, and it's absolutely vital. If you're at this time in a senior housing facility, or if you're considering forward regarding the opportunity of needing such treatment eventually, what takes place inside those residences is tremendously significant. Regrettably, mistreatment and disregard in American senior housing facilities has been a recurring, dreadful concern. Records from the Governmental Department of Health show that a substantial fraction of senior housing facilities nationwide have gotten documented for serious infractions. Items like inadequate employees, insufficient cleanliness, medicine administration problems, and in the most serious circumstances, violent and psychological mistreatment of inhabitants. Following the Senior Wellness and Protection Act, senior housing facilities getting financing from federal and regional programs, which makes up the vast bulk of them, are currently obligated to adhere to considerably higher worker limitations. The modified guidelines necessitate base worker proportions, indicating there must be a specific count of trained support workers for each individual in the building. This seems like a governmental information, yet what it genuinely indicates is that your partner or family member will possess an actual individual accessible to aid them whenever they want it, as opposed to a single exhausted assistant attempting to oversee a complete hallway of inhabitants by themselves. Insufficient employees has remained the principal element in numerous heartbreaking occurrences in senior housing facilities. Plus, this bill targets that problem head-on. The bill furthermore substantially increases the consequences for locations that are discovered to have infringed occupant protection guidelines. Previously, the expense amounts were insufficient, that plenty of senior housing facilities just regarded them as an operational cost. That transforms presently. Expense amounts are expanding substantially, and recurrent wrongdoers encounter the chance of forfeiting their federal and regional financial assistance altogether, which for the bulk of locations basically signals the conclusion of the organization. That produces a powerful monetary incentive to genuinely follow guidelines and regard inhabitants with consideration. Moreover, there are current see-through guidelines. Senior housing facilities must currently deliver their inspection records, employment information, and infraction archives more openly obtainable to the population. That suggests whenever you're examining a location for your own self or a relative, you're able to obtain genuine facts, not simply the attractive brochure they give you in the entry hall. Elderly monetary wrongdoing safeguards. Currently, let's invest period on something that doesn't obtain nearly sufficient focus, and that's elderly monetary wrongdoing. This constitutes a quiet disorder in the states. Every year, elderly citizens lose many billions to deceptive personnel, con artists, and monetary bad guys. The techniques appear in numerous configurations: artificial telephone communication from unauthorized IRS workers, senior medical coverage wrongdoing, monetary investment frauds, romantic relationship deception focusing on lone older widows and divorcees, construction specialists who obtain an advance and leave, plus also family components or caretakers who exploit connection to a senior person's monetary conditions. The Federal Bureau has regularly positioned elderly monetary wrongdoing as amongst the quickest expanding unlawful incidents in the land, plus the hurt individuals are frequently way too mortified or way too puzzled to document what happened to them. The Senior Wellness and Protection Act establishes a specifically designated monetary stream for elderly wrongdoing reduction and legal prosecution. This indicates much more nationwide legal professionals specifically experienced to see and examine these circumstances, much more assistance for hurt party backing and retrieval, plus increased interaction involving nationwide legal resources, state enforcement, plus monetary corporations. Financial providers plus credit organizations are currently inspired and occasionally obligated to signal questionable exchanges in balances owned by older people and to possess approaches set up for documenting possible wrongdoing. This represents tremendous advancement since frequently the monetary provider is the earliest group to observe the warning clues. An abrupt, significant withdrawal, several exchanges to an unidentified account, a fresh designation put into an account maintained by a mature individual. These represent cautioning indicators, and underneath the updated arrangement, monetary corporations possess both the means and the accountability to respond to them. There's furthermore a significant effort inside the bill to finance community consciousness projects, particularly focused at older people. Since right here's the reality, the greatest safeguard toward these methods is data. Whenever you're conscious of what to observe, whenever you recognize the techniques that con artists apply, you're significantly less probable to grow to be a casualty. Senior residential property plus living where you are. Let's focus on residential property right now. Since for countless older people, their residence is their greatest personal possession, plus the foundation of their complete existence. The potential to reside where you are, to develop more mature in the residence you've occupied, encircled by your collection plus your societies, is a thing that the majority of individuals desire profoundly. Yet the fact is that our residences frequently aren't created for the afterward phases of presence. Stairways transform into dangers. Restrooms without holding handles transform into crash places. Openings too narrow for a device transform into obstacles to self-reliance. Creating the improvements required to safely reside where you are might expense countless money. Plus, for countless older people on established resources, that money merely is not readily available. The Senior Wellness and Protection Act considerably grows financing for residence modification aid plans. Via scholarships plus economical lending alternatives managed at the residential stage, eligible older people can presently reach monetary backing to execute essential protection enhancements to their residences, items like putting in accessibility passages, broadening openings, installing accessible showers, increasing illumination, plus creating food preparation locations much more reachable. These aren't high-end reconstructions. These represent the fundamental improvements that enable someone to continue to be safe plus self-reliant in their personal residence, as opposed to remaining obligated into a medical facility just before they're genuinely prepared. The bill furthermore tackles cost-effective older person housing much more extensively. There's a considerable dedication in broadening the variety of cost-effective housing selections created specifically for senior citizens, groups that provide accessibility components, closeness to healthcare resources, plus possibilities for community relations. Isolation signifies amongst the greatest health dangers confronting senior citizens presently. Investigation demonstrates that extended solitariness in mature persons is as harmful to your wellness as utilizing smoking materials 20 times per calendar day. That isn't a misrepresentation. That's the thing investigation indicates. Via committing to housing designed to maintain older people attached to their societies, this bill tackles not simply bodily wellness, yet intellectual plus psychological health as well. Psychological treatment entrance. Speaking of psychological wellness, plus this constitutes a matter individuals choose to not speak about adequately, the Senior Wellness and Protection Act includes guidelines specifically broadening admission to psychological wellness assistance for older people on federal senior medical coverage. Presently, obtaining psychological wellness assistance via federal senior medical coverage might be challenging, pricey, plus constrained. A lot of specialists plus support experts don't take in federal senior medical coverage individuals. The compensation amounts are insufficient that suppliers regularly opt to not get included. Plus, the stigma surrounding psychological wellness, which continues to be particularly powerful in more mature generations that existed in a period where you merely didn't mention these items, prevents several older people from looking for assistance even when they seriously want it. The bill operates to take away several of individuals' limitations via enhancing compensation amounts for psychological wellness. Experts that work with federal senior medical coverage individuals, plus via broadening electronic assistance possibilities. Therefore, older people in countryside places or individuals with motion restrictions might obtain guidance from their personal residences. Emotional pain, passing, long-standing suffering, the tension of needing assistance. These represent genuine psychological obligations that countless more mature Americans transport each and every moment. The concept that requesting backing for individuals' obligations is somehow feeble or unnecessary is simply mistaken. Plus, it's a concept that this regulation is operating to challenge. Assistant support. Let's focus on assistant support since this represents a location that decreases via fractures in almost all guidelines discussions, though it influences countless thousands of households nationwide. Right now, you can find an believed 53 million volunteer household assistants throughout the land. These constitute offspring plus kids, companions, sibling plus companions who've assumed the enormous obligation of supporting a maturing relative, frequently whilst additionally functioning complete moment, increasing their particular kids, plus controlling their particular wellness. The actual plus psychological stress of assistance is massive. Assistant tiredness is genuine. Despair between assistants is very frequent. Plus yet, in previous times, these people have obtained virtually no monetary backing, almost no official education, plus incredibly minimal attention from governmental bodies for the effort they execute. The Senior Wellness and Protection Act shifts that in considerable methods. There are current taxation perks accessible for household assistants. Folks that are investing their particular funds on their own loved ones. Treatment can right now take back several of individuals' costs via the taxation program. There's furthermore financing for assistant teaching plans, therefore that family components that are supporting handle difficult healthcare circumstances in the house possess admission to the understanding plus backing they want to complete that in a safe plus productive means, plus their broadened short-term respite possibility, which enables assistants to execute short-term breaks without sensation, just like they're abandoning their obligations. An assistant that is rested, supported, plus knowledgeable is definitely a greater assistant. Plus, a greater assistant represents an improved lifestyle for the older person they're supporting. This constitutes the accomplish in each and every course. Federal senior medical insurance growth. Right now, let's concentrate on a thing that's obtained focus lately in regards to this bill, plus that's the greater discussion regarding federal senior medical insurance growth. There's been substantial controversy regarding whether to grow federal senior medical insurance protection to incorporate dental care, vision, plus hearing treatments. Presently, base federal senior medical insurance does not encompass regimen dental care, regimen attention examinations, or assistive hearing equipment. This constitutes a glaring lack in the arrangement since oral wellness is instantly joined to complete wellness. Untreated mouth condition is joined to center issues, diabetes situations, plus thinking troubles. Eyesight complications in more mature individuals enhance the probability of falls, crashes, plus community separation. A non-treated hearing issue symbolizes amongst the greatest changeable threat components for mind deterioration. These are not appearance treatments. These constitute primary healthcare requirements. The Senior Wellness and Protection Act achieves substantial development on this side, whereas a thorough growth of federal senior medical insurance to encompass all of dental care, vision, plus hearing requirements stays a work underway politically. This bill incorporates genuine measures in that orientation. You can find present subsidies accessible to guide federal senior medical insurance. Customers pay for assistive hearing equipment, which, as numerous persons realize might expense thousands plus, are hardly ever protected by medical insurance. You can find trial initiatives broadening dental care admission via national certified wellness facilities for federal senior medical insurance individuals. Plus, there's elevated financing for site assistance treatments via neighborhood wellness groups. It's not all things that promoters possess moved for, yet it's a considerable advance, plus it's undoubtedly relocating in the proper orientation. Your upcoming actions. Presently, I would like to concentrate on anything that might seem somewhat distinct from all the others, yet it's linked to all we've mentioned. Plus, that's the matter of remaining educated. Amongst the greatest actions you're able to complete following this guidelines is always to validate you comprehend your individual scenario, what you're presently obtaining, what you could possibly right now be eligible for, plus which actions you want to execute to obtain brand new perks. Since, as we stated from the beginning, not all parts of this bill occur instantly. Certain benefits need an application procedure. Certain want that you revise your records with federal senior medical coverage or government retirement benefits. Certain include enrollment timeframes that you wouldn't like to neglect. The greatest location to begin is along with your regional government retirement benefits company or through going to the formal government retirement benefits organization internet site. When you've got a senior medical coverage guide via your condition wellness insurance guidance assistance, that's a no-cost assistance accessible in each condition. This constitutes a fantastic occasion to organize a consultation. These guides tend to be educated to aid you comprehend your federal senior medical coverage advantages, plus navigate modifications precisely like the types this bill starts. They're at no cost, they're neutral, plus they're available specifically to assist individuals in your circumstances. Additionally, plus this really is essential, remain extremely cautious with regards to anybody that approaches you claiming to support you, apply for recent advantages underneath this bill, plus requesting funds or exclusive records initially. Unethical individuals function rapidly. Within several weeks of any significant guidelines getting accepted, deceptive personnel are already developing techniques close to it to manipulate older people into handing over their federal senior medical coverage identification, their government retirement benefits identification, or their financial institution account records. Genuine authorities' help is definitely consistently at no cost. The government retirement benefits company will not phone you. plus need instant effort. Federal senior medical coverage will not inquire your bank card identification via telephone. When one thing seems inappropriate, put down the phone, shut down the display, plus call the legitimate identification right away. Parting remarks. Take into account your personal circumstances. Take into account the particular points that have maintained you conscious during the night, or the particular instances whenever you experienced just like the framework had been not created for the requirements. It may have been experiencing the medication counter, plus having to decide which treatment to purchase this specific 30 days since you couldn't purchase all of them. It may have been observing a relative experience in a location that didn't maintain sufficient workers to deliver them suitable focus. It may have been having a phone call from your financial provider regarding a shift you don't identify, plus knowing with an unpleasant experience that another person have been taking away from you. It may have been resting by yourself on a Wednesday midday questioning when everybody recognized just how challenging this phase of lifestyle is often. This bill is absolutely not a comprehensive fix. Simply, no sole guidelines can remedy anything. However, it represents a genuine considerable effort to create the existences of more mature citizens greater in concrete, genuine methods. Plus, arguably, more than whatever, it constitutes a communication that the U.S. Congress examined the obstacles confronting mature citizens, plus reported, "We observe you, we listen to you, plus we're going to address it." Following decades of experiencing overlooked in guidelines discussions, that issue. You can find nonetheless challenges forward. Setup requires work. Capital arguments happen each spending routine. The folks that gain significantly the most from maintaining points the way they've been, the substance manufacturers, the below-staffed senior housing operation organizations, the monetary crooks, won't leave silently. They'll apply tension, they'll prosecute, they'll make an effort to take away from the advancement which has been attained. Which is precisely the reason why at issues that you continue to be educated, continue to be included, plus continue to be attached to this kind of discussion. Since the greatest safety regarding any guidelines is definitely an educated community that comprehends what's in danger, plus declines to permit it to be eliminated. Facts suggest capability,